The Kansas City Chiefs are officially down to their 53-man roster. There was a lot of cuts. There was even trades. And of course, we got a Chris Jones update today. So with that, let's cut the chit chat and let's have some fun. It took a minute. Of course, everything with the Kansas City Chiefs always takes a minute, no matter how focused you are in on it. But we finally got the full updated 53-man roster for the Kansas City Chiefs. Today, I'm just going to highlight some things that caught my eye because I don't have all day, and I know you guys don't have all the time in the world to go through each and every single one of these guys, but there was a few that caught my eye that I didn't anticipate to happen. And of course, we had some trades. And we had Chris Jones update, so let's kick it off with the Chris Jones update because what other way would we start a video? And the Kansas City Chiefs officially put Chris Jones on the did not report list. Now, what does that mean? Well, I learned a little bit of something today, and I think a majority of Chiefs Kingdom as well, is once the Kansas City Chiefs put Chris Jones on the did not report list, they basically hold his money now and he isn't due anything until he reports back to the Kansas City Chiefs. And then once he reports, they have 2 weeks to fulfill his contract, which is the $19.5 million. Hopefully I'm describing that correctly, but in shorter terms is the Kansas City Chiefs have $19.5 million to spend, which I didn't know that's how it worked, and it was complete news to me. And hopefully they control that better than how I would control it, because I initially look at it like a credit card. Like, oh, you got a credit card with a max limit on it, so you can use it, but be careful because once Chris Jones come back, the bill is due. So it's going to be interesting to see how the Kansas City Chiefs approach this now with a lot of cap space. They may, or I expect, go after a veteran pass rusher or someone to fill that hole while Chris Jones is gone, because it is definitely looking like Chris Jones won't be a part of the Kansas City Chiefs for week 1. Now, how long will he be out for? It's up in the air. He said he can be out all the way to week 8. Now, will he? I don't know. And honestly, this is just getting so overwhelming at a point to where it's just like, let's just get it resolved. And I don't care how it happens, whether it be a contract extension. And now I'm even at the point it's like, do we trade him? Because it's just getting crazy. And I'm just kind of getting tired of the saga and story continuing. I just want the Kansas City Chiefs to continue moving forward. If it's with Chris Jones or if it's without, I just want it resolved. And right here, it's taking another step. Now, is it a good step? No, because it doesn't look like Chris Jones will be with us for a little bit. But time can still change as well, because even though he's on the DNR list, does not mean that they cannot negotiate a contract extension. They can still do that. But as James Palmer is still reporting and still staying to his guns, there is still no talks. So why Chris Jones, why his agent was having dinner with a $500 bottle of wine, who knows? Your guess is as good as mine. I thought it was a congratulation dinner, but apparently it was not. So it's another day and another no new good update on the Chris Jones side. But we did have trades, and let's discuss the main trade, which involved Ihmir Smith-Marsette. The Kansas City Chiefs traded ISM for a conditional swapped 7th round pick. And honestly, I know this gets Chiefs Kingdom feeling some sort of way, because we all hoped and anticipated somehow, some way that they would either keep ISM over Justin Watson or run with 8 wide receivers. Both of those were so highly unlikely. And at the end of the day, the fact that Kansas City Chiefs got something for ISM is huge, because last year he was a practice squad kind of guy. And yes, he showed off and balled out during preseason. And for the Kansas City Chiefs to get a pick, and for ISM to also go to the Carolina Panthers, where he may be looked at, maybe at highest, a wide receiver number 4, is huge for him. He can get legit playing time with the Carolina Panthers. We loved ISM, but he wasn't going to do anything substantial for the Kansas City Chiefs offense, and we knew this wide receiver core was loaded. That's a testament to what Brett Veach has done, and I am happy that it's basically a win-win in my eye. Now, I know everyone doesn't view it like that, but at the end of the day, it is what it is. And we have another trade to discuss, but this time the Kansas City Chiefs are receiving a player, and it was an in-rival trade with the Las Vegas Raiders, their defensive tackle, Neil Farrell. Now, I'm not going to play around and act like I know anything about the dude. I don't. But I did a little research and social media, and you gain a lot of info that way. But the Kansas City Chiefs traded a 6th-round pick for this defensive tackle. Now, initially, Chiefs Kingdom goes nuts, berserk, like, oh my God, we're moving forward without Chris Jones. Chris Jones is going to get traded, yada, yada, yada. That may be the case. But this move does not dignify any of that. One thing, with or without Chris Jones, this defensive line lacks depth immensely. This move is to help shore up some depth. We don't know. This can mostly solidify how serious is Deshaun Wharton's injury. I still don't know that, and it may help to add there too, but we don't know about Deshaun Wharton. The Kansas City Chiefs released Danny Shelton today. They released Daniel Weiss. I'm not a big believer in Derek Nottie either. There is not depth there, and the Kansas City Chiefs needed to add a piece, and they did right here. Now, did he have a great year his rookie year? No. But also, the Raiders defense didn't have one either. So I'm excited to see this guy basically try to become a good football player under Joe Colin and Steve Spagnuolo. If anyone can bring the best out of Farrell, it's going to be Joe Colin. So I'm excited to see that the Kansas City Chiefs traded a 6th-round pick for the Raiders' 4th-round pick last year in Farrell, and very, very young defensive tackle. I think at the end of the day, it is a good trade. Now let's get into the nitty gritty of this roster, and we're gonna start off in the quarterback room. Now, I may not cover every position in depth. Like I said, it's 53 men. This is crazy, and I don't wanna hold you guys up any longer than may need be. But the QB position, the Kansas City Chiefs currently are running with 2, and that backup quarterback is Blaine Gabbert. Now, that comes as a shock to a lot of people, but it was pretty evident in that last preseason game that Blaine Gabbert won that position. But a lot of people assumed that the Kansas City Chiefs were still going to run with 3 quarterbacks, and Shane Buechele would have been that QB3. All in due part is because of how the Kansas City Chiefs approached Shane Buechele last year when he was almost poached by the Arizona Cardinals and they brought him up to the active roster. At the end of the day, this is a different roster. This roster is way more loaded than last year's team. And I knew if the Kansas City Chiefs have a different player on their radar, whether it be on the defense or on the offensive side of the ball, they would have to make room, and the quarterback position would have been the area to do it. Because literally, look at it. The Kansas City Chiefs don't need 3 quarterbacks. Shoot, you may not even think they need to. Now, yeah, I know that's kind of a rich take because Mahomes has had a tendency to get hurt in later the year. But if Mahomes is healthy, it's like, okay, we can hold 2, but 3, you can put a guy on the practice squad. And the Kansas City Chiefs may still be really hopeful that Shane Buechele clears waivers and they can bring him back. But the approach to me seems like that Blaine Gabbert is QB2, Shane Buechele is going to venture off to a new home, which rightfully so, because he wants to mold and become a legit backup quarterback, or maybe even a starting QB for a team like the Arizona Cardinals and get a legit chance to play real NFL downs. But Chris Oladokun was released too, who has shown some great highs in the NFL preseason where he should be able to be put on practice squad. So if God forbid, fingers crossed, anything happens, you can elevate him from the practice squad up. I think that is a legit way to focus on the QB room moving forward. There was no need to ever have 4 quarterbacks. And then also, the rumors swirling around, which we addressed, about Carson Wentz. Everyone thinks like, oh, now Carson Wentz may be the QB3 for the Kansas City Chiefs. I still find that highly unlikely. Now, could it happen? Of course, but I just don't see it. The Kansas City Chiefs have bigger holes specifically on the defense that they need to fill before they want to address a quarterback 3. Now, I may be completely wrong on that, but we'll see how that pushes forward. And speaking of pushing forward, we're going to go into the running back room because this is where, not surprising, but where I'm going to feel the most bitter, if anything. And it's the Kansas City Chiefs. They're going to stay true, and they're going to run with 3 running backs. It'll be Isaiah Pacheco, Jerick McKinnon, and Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Now, the reason why I feel better, and probably the majority of Chiefs Kingdom, is because LaMichael Pirine did not make this roster. And again, I'm going to continue to cross my fingers and hopefully somehow, some way, he makes the practice squad, because this dude really earned a shot to make the 53-man roster, and I wouldn't be surprised if he gets claimed on the waivers. So a little salty there. And then also the Kansas City Chiefs released Deneric Prince, who, very young guy, very hyped up throughout training camp. Once the games came to fruition, you saw he wasn't quite up to speed. He is a perfect candidate for the practice squad to where give him 1 year. If he gets his craft right, he is going to be a very, very solid running back in the future, specifically in the NFL, and hopefully with the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, moving towards the wide receiver room. For the first time in the Andy Reid tenure for the Kansas City Chiefs, we're running with 7 wide receivers. That's how loaded we are. But Chiefs Kingdom's going to feel a little salty because there was talent across the board, and Justin Watson is still one of those receivers. I get it. I understand. And honestly, I would be in the same boat with you. But at the end of the day, he's all reliable. Even though he's been in the team for 1 year, he has got the accountability and the trust of everyone in that locker room. So it was almost impossible to see him either be cut or traded, no matter how hopeful we were for it. But the one guy we were hopeful for is our wide receiver number 7 and may get legit snaps next year, and it is Justin Ross. And it is a comeback story you love to see. And I'm excited to see what the kid can bring next year. And hopefully he really does get involved, because I feel like he can be a playmaker. And if you draw up 10 to 15 plays for him, I feel he'll make the most of it to where towards October and November, he's going to be in the playbook and he's going to be on the field early and often. And I'm just excited to see how he evolves and expands with this offense. Now let's flip side of the ball. Let's go to the defense and let's talk about how the Kansas City Chiefs decided to run with 6 linebackers. And the most notable of notes is Cam Jones has made the Kansas City Chiefs active roster. It's surprising to me, but a good surprise, because I thought he would be someone who would be cut today, and then the Kansas City Chiefs would try to get him onto the practice squad. But the fact he made the active roster is huge kudos to him, and I'm excited to see what kind of game plan Spags has for him moving forward. Again, this is the initial roster, so expect things to change within 24 hours and throughout the rest of the week. But I feel like they really, really want Cam Jones here. And for some reason, the Kansas City Chiefs really love their linebackers. We knew they were deep when it started with Nick Bolton, Willie Gay, Leo Chanel, Drew Tranquil, but it goes on and on. That just shows you how much Spags loves his linebacking core. And then also, you look into the cornerback room. This was my big kind of negative surprise, but not really. And it's that fact the Kansas City Chiefs will run with 5 cornerbacks and that Khalif Halassi will not make this roster. And that was another bitter one for me. It really, really was, because I was like, man, I thought he earned his shot. And with the specific injury to a guy like L'Jarius Sneed, where I have no idea what a day-to-day means. If you take me back 5-6 years, well, even longer, the Eric Berry day-to-days, that can mean a whole year. So I'm hoping L'Jarius Sneed is healthy, but you thought that extra depth would have been there. They let go of Reese Taylor as well, and then the kid out of Kansas State, who I butcher his name all the time, but at Chiefs Kingdom, I know you know his name. Those are 3 young, talented prospects that best believe the Kansas City Chiefs will try to find a way to get a couple, if not all of them, back on their practice squad. And then let's talk about some noticeable roster cuts that were kind of surprising, but not really. Danny Shelton, he had a big preseason, and I thought with a lack of depth in that defensive tackle room, he would have easily made this roster. But also, the thing that's different from him being released is he was released. He wasn't waived. So the Kansas City Chiefs can immediately bring him back to the practice squad, or if he wants to try to make another team's practice squad or active roster, that's up to him. But Kansas City can still try. Same with Deion Bush too. He was released, but it looks like rookie Chamari Connors won that role. Chamari Connors was never going to be released, but it just shows you how much faith Steve Spagnuolo has in him, and I'm excited to see how that rookie attacks that role. And he may be a guy who may be covering some of L'Jarius Sneed's snap counts when it comes to blitzing the quarterback. And then you got a guy like Matt Bushman, another guy who shined in the preseason and was unfortunately released today. I thought the Kansas City Chiefs might have a chance at running with 4 tight ends, specifically when they didn't run with 4 running backs. But that happens to not be the case. They happen to actually go a little heavier on the offensive line, and they kept Mike Caliendo. Very, very interesting and actually exciting. I'm actually happy to see a guy like him make this roster. But when you focus on the offensive line, a notable name and a guy like Darian Kennard, he didn't make the roster. And I thought, wow, that was a little rich, but also understandable too. I thought, if anything, your surprise offensive lineman cut would have been Lucas Niang, but he is a part of the Kansas City Chiefs active roster. And then my last noticeable cut was Joshua Kando, who had a very strong finale against the Green Bay Packers, against the Cleveland Browns, but it's little too late. We've been waiting to see something out of Kando since 2021. Maybe the Kansas City Chiefs can get him on the practice squad, but I think the Kando experiment is officially over. And with that, Chiefs Kingdom, this video is officially over as we just wrapped up the new updated 53-man roster for the Kansas City Chiefs. You let me know some of your key takeaways of today, and you let me know what you expect the Kansas City Chiefs to do in the upcoming days, because it's far from done. It really is. And I feel like there's a move coming. I don't know. Maybe a Chris Jones extension? I'm not even crossing my fingers for that anymore. What I am thinking, though, is I think they're going to still bolster the defensive line, and I'm curious to see how they do it, and I'm intrigued. But if they do, or when they do, I will be here. So please be sure to subscribe to the channel. If you did like this video, please leave that big thumbs up. I'm checking out. Y'all take care. Peace.